Recording in progress.
Hi, Darren.
Hi, Chair. It's Mashile.
Hi, Mashile. How are you?
Yes. Good and self, Chair.
Good, good, good.
Yes.
The time is exactly 9 o'clock, and I think we are ready to go. Mashile, can we continue?
Yes, you can continue, Chair.
Very much. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you on the platform to this first meeting of the year of the Standing Committee on Appropriations. You are all welcome. Wishing everybody well during the last quarter of the Standing Committee on Appropriation in Parliament of the 6th Administration. And it's going to be a very packed quarter, as we'll see. First, before I proceed, happy Valentine's Day, and to those who practice Christianity, a happy Ash Wednesday. It's the beginning of Lent. All members, again, you are welcome. Our support staff, members of the public, media, you're all welcome. Today we are meeting National Treasury, who are going to be briefing us on the third quarter performance of the national departments and some identified SOEs. The question of expenditure, it's something that has preoccupied this committee to ensure that the money that is allocated to departments and SOEs is not just used, but is used and efficiently used and used for the purpose for which it was appropriated for. So it's one area that this committee has, over the years, tried to focus on. So welcome this opportunity of interacting with with National Treasury on this matter. And I must say that over the years, if the last report that was shared with the committee by National is anything to go by, we have seen tremendous improvement as far as expenditure is concerned. We're not where we want to be, but definitely there's been improvement. Just to repeat what we have said before, the implications of under expenditure. First and foremost is that the people who are supposed to receive that service are denied that service. Also, mostly we have found that it's mainly on infrastructure spending that we find there's a lot of under expenditure. And the implications indeed are huge, because it means the contribution that infrastructure was going to make in the economy is undermined. And needless to say, that result in a lower GDP growth, higher unemployment rate, less money to the receiver. So it's crucial that this is an area that we should continuously be focusing on. The implications, the opportunity costs of not spending money are just too huge. Not that, again, there's huge financial implications. We know that we are running a deficit, which means that we go out in the markets to try and borrow money to close the gap. But if we borrow that money at very high cost and we go and keep the money in the banks, it doesn't make economic sense. So that's why it's important that we should continuously be focusing on this. And again, as this committee, we're very much wary of of fiscal dumping and much where departments at this time, they are going all over. And I think it's an area that Parliament should continue focusing on. Although we say what money is being spent, but we are completely against fiscal dumping. All members, with those few words from my side, again, I welcome all of you. I welcome National Treasury at PPO. If you're on platform, also welcome you. Thank you very much for joining us. Mashile, can we go to the apologies?
Yes, Chair. Good morning, everyone. We received an apology from Honorable Kwangwa. He's not feeling well. That is the only apology we have at the moment. Thank you, yes. Chair.
Thank you, Mashile. Let's note that apology. For me, when it comes to agenda item number 5, is not the adoption of the report, is the tabling of the report. We're not adopting it today. We're just tabling it to be adopted on another day. Okay. Right. Did you get that, Mashile? That we're tabling the report, we're not adopting it. Okay.
Yeah, we are tabling it. Yeah, that's
okay. Good. All members, I think let's go to the next agenda item, and that's welcoming Dr. Mampo and Team National Treasury to continue with their presentation. Dr. Mampor, look around 45 minutes, and let's see how far you go. Thank you very much. Again, welcome, Team Treasury.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you for this opportunity for us to present to the committee. Good morning and happy Valentine's. So today my job is quite easy, Chairperson. So what we thought of doing, honorable members, was that we thought, let us look at the presentation. Let's see how we move from the adjustments budget to see and assess the performance of the departments given where all the budget adjustments that we did in the MTBPS. So, Chairperson, just in summary, I'm just going to share the presentation now. But in summary, basically from the budget or the MTBPS that was tabled in October, there were in-year budget reductions that were done, and the departments that saw the significant reductions were basically Department of Corker. I'm just trying to share. Yes. So the departments that saw the largest reductions, honorable members, just to recap, would be Corker, Social Development, Higher Education and Training, Basic Education, National Treasury, Human Settlement, as well as Transport. But there were departments where there were additional allocations that were made, and those departments were the ones that were personnel heavy, and that would be Police, Correctional Services, and the Defense Force. So the total adjustments that we did in the MTBPS and that were presented to Parliament were a decline of 22 billion. So what we thought it would be helpful to the committee is then compare the spending relative to the adjustments that we've made in the MTBPS. So in the past, Chair and honorable members, we would do a comparison of where departments would be in the third quarter relative to previous years. But because in 2023-24, we had this big adjustment in here, that comparison was not very helpful because departments had to adjust their spending plans given the proposal for reductions in the MTBPS. So now this slide just basically shows where we are in the third quarter. So we look at expenditure as a percentage of what is been available, and that would be this column here, Chairperson. So basically the first one would be what was mainly appropriated, and then the actual expenditure would be what the departments have spent so far as the third quarter, and then we also compare the expenditure as a percent of the available budget. And the reason why we do this, Chairperson and honorable members, is that we just want to see how far off are the departments in terms of spending. So 75% is around 70-80% is what we would expect departments to spend in the third quarter. Of course, there are those departments such as higher education and training or basic education where it is transfers, so they would likely to spend 90%, but that is purely because most of their budget would be transfers and subsidies. And then we also look at the projected spending, where we look at how far off are the departments or what we expected them to spend. And then we look at the difference between what we expected them to spend and the actual spending. How we calculate the expected spending, Chairperson and honorable members, is the departments after the MTBPS is tabled. They are requested to submit the drawing schedule, so what they think they're going to draw down in the NRF, and we use that as the expected spending. Then, Chairperson and honorable members, from the data, basically the category that showed the largest underspending was compensation of employees, and it was higher than projected by almost 3 billion. And then we have transfers and subsidies, that are slightly lower than projected spending at 1.5 billion, and then payments for capital assets, another 1 billion that was higher than projected spending. And in total, we're looking at expenditure that is higher than what was projected of 2.5 billion. I think, Chair and honorable members, this is a slide where it gives a proper perception of the spending in the different departments. The first column would be what the department spent relative to what they thought they would spend. The negative numbers would be where a department has been spending more than the projection. And then the positive number would be where a department is spending less than what they projected. And the percentage variance from expenditure basically would be in terms of percentages, how big is this under or over expenditure compared to what is expected. So for example, how this must be interpreted is that for police, for example, that 2.5 billion that they spend more than projection is 3.2% of their budget, while, for example, in tourism, that 498% would be, 948 million would be around 40% of their budget. So the magnitude of the nominal rand value relative to the percentage, we thought it would be critical for the committee to have a look at these two different set of numbers, because sometimes the number might be very big in terms of nominal, but because of the size of the department, you find that it's either small or it's either too big, as I said, relative to the department. So basically what we're looking at three categories of the departments. One, we look at the departments where they have shown higher than projected spending. The next set of departments that we analyze would be the departments where they're in the middle. So we're not worried that they're going to over or underspend in the fourth quarter. They're basically in line with their projected spending. And then the third set of the departments would be those departments that we think at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, they will register underspending. So this is the first list of departments, committee members. So basically here, my slide just move quickly. These are the departments that have projected higher than they recorded higher than projected spending, and these are the departments that we need to keep an eye on, because we wouldn't want departments to overspend, of course, but because of some of the adjustments we made in the MTBPS, we are trying to work with the departments to see if there aren't any possible solutions for this, and most of that work continues to be part of the budget process, and some of the resolutions of that work will be presented in next week's budget. So, Chairperson and honorable members, police, as I said earlier, contributed the most to over than projected spending, but police, correctional services, and the defense force are those three departments where an allocation for the compensation of employees or for the gap between the wage agreement and what was budgeted for. They were allocated funds in the MTBPS, but they still show some higher than projected spending. And I think this would be clearer in the fourth quarter, the magnitude of this, whether they piled up the payments in the third quarter, and then there might be some relief in the fourth quarter, or alternatively, the situation can be worse than the third quarter. But as I say, it will become clearer as we finalize the numbers, just to see if they will continue to have higher than projected spending. Then you have departments that are slightly smaller, like DECO, Office of the Chief Justice, Presidency and State Assay, and mainly for these departments, the increases or the higher than projected spending is a combination of different factors. So for example, DECO, it would be because of the exchange rate fluctuations. In the MTBPS, we did propose to Parliament an adjustments for DECO to deal with the exchange rate fluctuation, but the continuation of the depreciation of the rand has resulted in this pressure continuing. The presidency would be, because of the new changes that were made in the presidency, and that shortfall It's something that we are working with the department to see if we can resolve through the coming budget. Same as for, let's say, the reasons for the higher than projected spending would be because of the compensation of employees. Then, Chairperson and honorable members, this is the second group of departments where while others have spent more than what they projected, others spend less than what they projected, but the magnitude of these numbers, and after speaking with the department, working with the department, preparing for the budget, they are comfortable that their spending will be aligned to the allocations, and therefore there's no need to worry about these departments. And what we are providing here for you would be the expenditure as a share of budget. As I said, for departments such as basic education and women, youth, and persons with disabilities, that magnitude or that increase, the 90% is mainly because they have transfers, and they would have transferred all the money to their entities. That's why you will see 90%, but it doesn't mean they don't have money for the fourth quarter for the operations. It just means the largest portion of their spending would be on transfers. And then you have departments where they have already shown signs of less than projected spending, and those are the departments that we saying to the committee, we're not too worried about them given the adjustments in the MTBPS, and after working with them, we are confident that they will be within their spending envelopes. Then this is the third set of departments where there's a high likelihood that they will spend less than what is allocated for them in the fourth quarter. Some of these are projecting higher than projected spending in the third quarter, but all in all, after we spoke to the departments, then they have confirmed that they are likely to spend less than what is allocated, and those departments would be transport, human settlement, social development again, public enterprises, traditional affairs, the National School of Government, and DPME. So this is just the first set. And as you see, even for transport, the over than projected spending is only 1.6% of their budget, but this will of course be rectified in the fourth quarter. And the reason why, for example, transport would have higher than projected spending is because they transferred money to PRASA faster than what they anticipated, and this is a good thing. So it means for the fourth quarter this will be resolved, and we're not likely to see any negatives for transport. So these are just some of the departments, Chairperson, where while they're showing some numbers of higher than projected spending, but all in all, after discussing this with the departments and finalizing the budget process, these are the departments that are highly likely to underspend in the fourth quarter for the full year of 23-24. These are also some of the departments that are in this category, where basically we're looking at communications and digital technologies, PSA, mineral resources and energy, health, military veterans. And with military veterans already, the variance for the third quarter is 31% of their budget. So they haven't spent the 150 million, and this was basically due to delays in delivering some of the key benefits, mainly housing and health. So we think that this trend will unfortunately persist in the fourth quarter, and we're likely to see underspending in that front. And then Department of Employment and Labor, as well as Public Works and Infrastructure, we're estimating that they're going to underspend at the end of the 2023-24 fiscal year. And then the last set of these departments, Chairperson and honorable members, would be the National Treasury, and basically the lower than expected transfer for National Treasury was the transfers to the revenue services. But because they have submitted the cash flow projections, they've adhered to the conditions that were set up for this allocation, We don't think that in the fourth quarter this will be a problem, but there will be other areas where Treasury might experience underspending. So we're looking at around 400 spent. And then the Department of Cooperative Governance, that's where the largest expected underspending will be in the final quarter. So for now, they have spent 2.7 billion less than what they anticipated, which is basically 3.1% of their budget. But of course, with quarter, these are mainly transfers. And if these are transfers, then it means that once they deal with the adherence of the conditions in the DORA, as well as dealing with some of the municipalities that are struggling, then we might see a change in the pattern of underspending. But for now, COCTA is that one department that we think is going to show the most significant underspending at the end of the 2023-24 fiscal year. Then, Chairperson, these are the summary of the departments. We hope that the manner in which we have done the presentation in aligning it with the budget reductions that we propose in the MTBPS and grouping these departments into 3 categories can then help the committee in assessing the performance and in doing an estimate of what will happen in the last quarter of 2023-24. And then, Chairperson, quickly, in terms of the entities that belong to public finance, we have submitted the presentation, but we haven't seen the entities that we think the committee must focus on. I think the first half of the year is still a bit early to see whether an entity is in trouble or not. And basically what we see is an alignment between the projections and the actual numbers. And what we have done since September, August, September, October, is to look at the entities, look at their surpluses that they would wanted to retain, and most of the surpluses that they applied to be retained, they were retained. So for example, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, we have approved the surplus during the 2023-24 fiscal year, so their spending is aligned to what is projected. So we're not picking up any of the entities that we think we should bring to the attention of the committee, but that presentation was attached for your consideration. Thank you, Chairperson. Ravesh?
Thanks, Dr. Modise. Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, and also happy Valentine's Day. We're going to take you through our slides, which basically deals with the entities, with the SOCs itself. So let me just share that with you now. So basically, we're going to go through 6 entities itself. I think just to preface the presentations as well, we're going to go through them quite quickly. We've shared with you the history, the background. I think just on Transnet, we also have to preface that as well to say that's the first time we're sharing the Transnet guarantee conditions, and they are still very indicative, and they will change after consultations with the entity and with the presidency and the department itself and shareholder department. So let me hand over to Mr. Radikelere to take us through Land Bank.
Good morning, everyone. I'm hoping everyone can hear me, everybody can see me.
Yes, we can hear you, and we can see the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Members, the story regarding the land bank has not changed much, so I'll focus on a few things that I think are very important. Members, you'll remember that the land bank default started in April 2020, and over that period, the land bank went through different versions of what we call a liability solutions, which basically means the negotiations to the lenders to resolve the land bank default. But due to stalemate in the discussions, the land bank is still to actually reach the conclusion of this liability solution. And then to support the land bank throughout since 2020, government has provided land bank with a total of 10 billion, which includes the 3 billion in 2020 and 7 billion in 2021. The 7 billion was to be transferred over the 3-year period. And out of the 7 billion, government has used about 500 million to repay the guaranteed lenders. So as we speak, I can say to you, the land bank in its book has no guaranteed lenders. So only lenders that are not guaranteed. And then out of the 7 billion, 5.1 billion has already been transferred to the land bank. And the remainder is being processed to be transferred to the land bank before the end of this financial year. Currently, land bank is working on concluding the liability solution before the end of this financial year, with the land bank reporting that majority of the lenders have indicated support to this current liability solution. And I have to indicate that for the first time, land bank has actually said this with more confidence than before. So we are very, very hopeful that the liability solution will be concluded very, very, very soon. Ravesh, you can go to slide 2. In the meantime, the land bank is concluding its business case to enhance the development and transformation book. And the focus is more on the blended finance scheme. It has since developed significant pipelines of transactions for the scheme. And land bank has actually given us information that it has received about 1 billion applications from the clients for blended finance, and about 600 million of that has actually been disbursed. Ramesh, you can move to slide 3, which basically gives a summary of the performance of the land bank. And the current performance, despite tough conditions, the following are key highlights, Chair. As at end of Q3, which is the 31st December 2023, land bank recorded a net loss of about 97 million against a budgeted profit of 99.4. But this is mainly driven by higher impairment charges of 252 million, which is up 600 million year on year. The funding liabilities, which is a very good news. Remember when we started the default, the land bank was sitting at a debt of about 40 billion. That debt has actually reduced to about 16.6 billion due to capital and interest payment during the year. So land bank has been doing a very good job in terms of collecting and repaying the debt. The non-performing loans book loan portfolio has decreased from 9.8 billion in March 2023 to 9.7 billion in December 2023. However, the NPL ratio increased from 51.9 in September 2023 and to 54.4 in December 2023. And this is due to, obviously, members would actually ask why they decrease, and then at the same time we have an increase. But this is due to the smaller size of the loan book. So the loan book has actually been declining over a period. Therefore, it means the proportion of that actually indicates, it gives us a ratio that shows that it is increasing. But in the real numbers, in the true sense, the numbers, the land bank has been actually seeing a loan portfolio, non-performing loan book that has actually decreased, that has actually been improving. Thanks very much, Ravesh.
Thanks, Mr. Radiklede. Mr. Masoka on ESCOM.
Thank you, Ramesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Chair and honorable members. I'm just presenting you an update on ESCOM. And before I start, just to highlight or emphasize that these numbers are only unaudited numbers, so they should be treated as such. Thanks, Honorable Chair and honorable members. ESCOM has continued to report a loss after tax in this quarter ending, or in this period ending 31st December. They recorded 7.5 billion. And I think we can see that the revenue is growing, but it's only growing largely because of the standard tariff increases. but concerning is that the sales volumes are continuing to decline. And I think another concern on the revenue side is the escalating municipal area debt. I think Eskom tried to put some efforts in trying to resolve this matter, but without success so far. So the situation is still going. We're just hoping that the debt relief that Treasury has developed will change the situation. And as you can see, the Eskom profitability remains hampered by long-term financial stability arising from inadequate tariff path and poor generating plans and the municipal area debt that we have just highlighted. Second slide, Ravesh. So yeah, as we said, the Eskom power plant, coal-fired power plants are not really giving what we are expecting as a country and as citizens and as users of electricity. And we can see by the energy availability factor, which measures the performance of the plants, they are now sitting at 55.24. Which is remains significantly worse than the targets and even the prior performances from previous years. So we continue to experience high levels of unplanned losses, unreliability, and unpredictability of the performance. And even though the Eskom board has approved the operational recovery plan, they are doing their best, but we can see based on the current performance, these targets will likely not to be met, or they are not yielding the desired results. And I think that has resulted into the banning of OCGTs, what we call open cycle gas turbines, which is quite expensive in order to try to limit the impact of load shedding or to keep the lights on. And I think also on the concerning side is that regarding the monthly emission limits, Eskom had 15 units operating in non-compliance, which poses a risk of these power plants being shut down by authorities if nothing is being done on that side. Ravesh, second, next slide. And I think on this one, we're just giving an update on the Eskom debt relief package that was announced in the budget speech in 2023. And you remember, Honorable Chair and honorable members, we had provided then a total of 255 billion over the next 3 years, and 76 billion was allocated for 2023-24. Out of 76, 44 billion has already been disbursed to Eskom, and the remainder will be disbursed this month and next month before the financial year. And out of that, 16 billion has been converted to equity in line with the spirit of the Eskom Debt Relief Act, after Eskom has complied with the conditions attached to the Eskom Debt Relief Act. And I think lastly to highlight is that Eskom has and Treasury has progressed with the introduction of Eskom of the interest, or introducing the interest in the Eskom Debt Relief Package. But we have taken a very cautious approach in designing the interim scheme, ensuring that the interest does not negatively impact Eskom cash flows. The terms of conditions do not impose huge administrative burden on Eskom or on National Treasury, and that the interest charged is in line with the market-related loans. So we had engagement with Eskom, and they are on board with the scheme that will be introduced. The subordinated loan will remain the same, but now it will be interest-bearing loan, and these changes can only be effected after the Eskom Debt Relief Amendment Bill has been assented and enacted into law, which the bill is now currently going parliamentary governance approval processes. I think that's all from our side, Ravesh. I think. Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Masoka. Mr. Rasebeshela will take us through on SAA and Transnet. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members. Just on the first slide, we just provided background, and this is information we provided to the committee before, on the initial tranche of funding that was provided to SAA for business risk implementation including the funding provided to its subsidiaries. And here we show that of the total initial 10.5 provided, 2.7 was provided to SAA's 3 subsidiaries, namely SA Technical, Mango Airlines, and Airships. You can move to the next slide, Ravesh. So, moreover, an additional 1 billion rand was provided for business risk implementation during last year's February budget. This allocation was subject to several conditions. I will not go through all of them, but the most salient of which are that all government guarantees must be cancelled upon the disbursement of funds. National Treasury to review the strategic equity partner agreement to ensure that it does not give rise to future fiscal obligations, and the Takato Consortium to provide funds for the strategic equity partnership transaction prior to the conclusion of that transaction. You can move to the next slide, Ravesh. And here we just provide a financial update, members. So the SAA Group results, which is the consolidated results of the airline and its subsidiaries, reported a loss of 761 million for the year to date. The loss is mainly attributed to delays in implementing the fleet and network strategy, which SAA calls the TAL scenario. But with implementation, SAA expects this to turn around. We can move to Transnet, Ravesh. Thank you. So on Transnet, as a background, the freight rail operations have been negatively impacted by ongoing security incidents, locomotive unavailability, and the poor state of rail infrastructure. The decline is as a result of a multitude of factors, which include operational inefficiencies, theft and vandalism, and underinvestment in the network. Our port productivity is significantly lower than African and European, the benchmark in African and European reports, and this is per published studies. So what we did, one of the conditions attached to the funding we provided to Transnet in 2023 is that we would lead an independent review, that is National Treasury, of all freight corridors, and with a specific focus on identifying opportunities for operational efficiency improvement. We expect to commence during the independent review during the last quarter of 23-24, and we aim for this to be completed by the second quarter of 24-25. We can move to the next slide, Ravesh. And this is where we provide just an update on the financial position of Transnet. On the table, the first table above, we show the debt of Transnet that was maturing between December of last year and February of this year. Transnet did not have the resources to pay off the debt that was maturing. So in October of last year, the Minister of Public Enterprises requested the concurrence of the Minister of Finance for the issuance of a 47 billion rand guarantee. Below that, you see a table where we show the net borrowing of Transnet between 2015 and 2023. You can see that that's increased from 110 million to about 130 billion as at the end of last year. This shows that Transnet has become overly reliant on refinancing, that is, raising additional debt to pay debt, and this has been unsustainable. Because of Transnet's lack of resources to pay off the debt that was maturing, had Transnet defaulted on any of the debt that was maturing between December last year and March of this year, it would have resulted in a default on the entire 130 billion due to cross-default clauses included in Transnet's debt agreements. We move on to the next slide, Ravesh. So on the 29th of November last year, the Minister of Finance concurred to the request by the Minister of Public Enterprises. We concluded a guarantee framework agreement with inputs from the National Treasury, DPE, Department of Transport, the Presidency, and Transnet. The framework agreement includes conditions, and these conditions, we're looking at aligning Transnet strategy to government policy. We're looking at managing fiscal risk and driving much of the needed industry reforms. But like Ravesh said, these conditions we're still going to discuss some of these conditions with Transnet, and some of them may be changed. I won't go through all the conditions, members. I'll just go through some of the most salient ones. On this first slide is that the submission of a board-approved plan for the disposal of Transnet's non-core property portfolio by 30 April 2024. Full implementation of the disposal of the non-core property portfolio should be effected by 31st of March 2025. Any transactions undertaken in terms of Section 54, those are significant transactions of the PFMA to be subject to the approval of the Minister of Finance as well as the Minister of Public Enterprises. An important one as well is that Transnet needs to appoint an independent financial advisor to assist with building a balance sheet optimization framework and a comprehensive financial model. They need to submit the balance sheet optimization framework and the financial model, and we must support the underlying assumptions of Transnet's forecasts, including the milestones, and they need to do this by the 31st of May of this year. Next slide, Ramesh. On this slide, I'll just touch on two. Number 10, the reduction in operational expenses before EBITDA as reported for the financial year ended 31 March 2024 by 4%, and they need to aim for additional savings in the upcoming financial year. Move to the next slide, Ramesh. Transnet to require the approval of the Minister of Finance on the terms of the financing raised against the guarantee before concluding any agreement. The guarantee provided in terms of itself be ring-fenced solely for the purposes of securing new debt. The ring-fence guarantee shall not be available to cover any other existing obligations of Transnet. Then to enhance our monitoring activities, we have established a monitoring committee, and this committee convenes monthly, and it comprises representatives from the National Treasury, the DPE, and the Department of Transport, and we monitor Transnet's financial performance, the progress with developing and implementing the turnaround plan, and compliance with conditions of the guarantee. And this task team will remain in place until the Ministers of Finance and Public Enterprises are satisfied with the sustainability of Transnet. Ramesh, you can move to the next slide. But what I will say there is that we've also included in the guarantee framework agreement that the Minister of Finance, as provided for in terms of Section 66 and 17 of the PFMA, may impose additional conditions from time to time as the occasion requires. Thank you, Ramesh.
Yeah, thank you, Patu. Now we move over to the last two entities. First is Mr. Sepeng on the post office. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ramesh. Can you hear me?
You can hear you.
Yep. On post office, honorable members, we still see the declining trend in the South African post office business. Now, in the last quarterly reporting, the committee had asked what had taken so long for the business rescue practitioner to come up with a plan. So we had since had weekly meetings with them where they were reporting progress as they were putting together their plan. And this plan had been now presented to the monitoring team comprising of Treasury and the DCDT in December, in the beginning of December, this was declared. And we're now engaging on the plan. And as of this week, Chair and the members, the business rescue team are now putting together an implementation plan, a detailed implementation plan of how they're going to carry out the wider business plan that they had submitted. Thank you, Ramesh. Go to the next slide. And on the conditions, there's a couple of conditions that I would like to give some update on, but I think the first one was that on properties that in this week as well, that in the plan sits an outline of how they would like to put a group of properties that are belonging to the South African Post Office for sale. And this would go for different types of sales that they'll be doing to try and slim down the departments. This will happen whilst they're also dealing with the VSP process that had started a couple of years ago. That was prior to any funding being available. Yeah, and that's it on that slide. Can we go to the next slide? And then lastly would be the third quarter report on financials. As I made reference that the financial are not looking good, or as the business rescue is underway. SAPO reports only 7% achievement of its key performances for up to third quarter. They've reported almost like a billion net loss for quarter 3, and that's against the target of 1.5 billion in of revenue. Revenues are also not tracking as planned, 28% below the budget and 20% below the prior year for the quarter 3. Operating expenditure was 33% below budget, and this is mainly because it's a lot of the operating expenditure was before the allocation of the funding for the business rescue, and now once the funds are allocated, the business rescue were trying to sort of stop the bleeding within the operations of post office rather than continue business as usual. They're trying to pay some of the suppliers back, some of the backlog payments, and also pay rentals on the rented units and municipal accounts to continue try and salvage some of the revenues that are still continuing the business, that are holding the business. And the last point would then be that there's still no guarantees currently envisaged for the post office as per plan. So we're looking into meeting with the DCDT to continue engaging on the plan. Like before, with the business rescue technician, has been a weekly meeting, and we also meet continually on a quarterly basis to discuss the cumulative effect of what work has been done. Thanks. That's all on my side.
Thanks for participating. Lastly, Ms. Maratol.
Thank you, Ravesh. Morning, Honorable Chair and parliamentary members. So for on the background, I'll just focus on some highlights. So of the funds that Denel has been allocated for the implementation of the turnaround plan, Denel has only been allowed to draw down 2.2 billion, as it has only disposed of a few of its identified non-core assets. So the remaining funds have been ring-fenced. This is to make sure that Denel follows through on the intended initiatives in its turnaround plan. The next slide, please, Ravesh. Due to the delays that have been experienced in the implementation of the turnaround plan, it can be seen that Denel's financial situation has deteriorated. Its year-to-date revenue is 37% behind budget. This is because of delays in the placement of orders by the South African Air Force, the breakdown of some critical machinery at Denel. Can also be seen that operating costs are actually higher than anticipated. This is because of under recoveries due to lower levels of productivity. Then there have also been earnings before interest and taxation is actually a negative 359 million relative to the budget of 179 million. This has actually factored through to Denel's bottom line. That is its net loss. It's also 37% worse off than budgeted. This is because of lower revenue and higher operating costs, as well as associated companies or Denel subsidiaries that are bringing in profits that are lower than expected. So what National Treasury is doing is that We keep on monitoring Denel's financial situation and encouraging them to expedite the implementation of its turnaround plan so as to improve its financial situation. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Moratoli and team. Chair and honorable members, over to you. Thank you.
Dr. Mampo, is that all? Dr. Mampo, is that all? Dr. Mampanti?
Yes, Chairperson. Sorry, yes, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for those presentations, Team National Treasury. Honorable members, you know how we do it. Can those who want to say something, ask questions, and indicate?
I'm from Memezi, Chair.
Memezi, Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Matafa.
Honorable Matafa. Any other honorable member?
Kaiso.
Honorable Kaiso. Right. Any other honorable member? Okay. Before we proceed, let me take this opportunity to welcome Honorable Sarupen back, who for the better part of the previous quarter was not feeling very well. Thank you very much, Honorable Sarupen. You're most welcome. We missed you in the committee.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm happy to be back.
Thank you. Honorable Memezi, you go.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good morning to Team Treasury led by Dr. Mampo. Chair, let me start by appreciating the presentation. Indeed, one can see that there was a lot of preparations to update us as the members on behalf of the people of South Africa. I have areas that I need to get some answers from the presentation by Dr. Mampo. I want to indicate my concern and worry and need explanation, because from where I sit, there should not be under expenditure. When we give departments a budget, we do this for the people of South Africa. It's not for any Director General to be happy of having a budget. So it is nothing else. It must change the lives of the people of South Africa, in particular, those who were marginalized for many, many years under the previous regime. Now, we really feel very unhappy when today, when we have our own people now in government as part of the technocrats who must assist, speed up the service delivery, are now not spending. So I really need a bit of convincing. And the second point, from where I sit, for any under expenditure, there should be a clear consequences for that failure to perform. because we employ people in government to perform, and there should be performance measurements. And if then the people still don't perform, don't spend the available budget, compromising the people of South Africa, then they should not continue to stay in our employ for fun. They are not there as entitlement. They are there for one reason only: to perform, to change the lives of the people of South Africa. And if they fail to spend, then we need a clarity on the steps taken as part of the consequences for failure to spend. That is the first point on those departments that are indeed said to be not going to spend as per their own plans. So that's the first area that I really want to emphasize. Now, going to the municipality side, I want us to all agree, National Department, National Treasury, all of us are staying under municipality land. We all part of the municipality. It's not like the municipality are the areas where we all stay. When they are not performing properly, we all must feel something must be done, in particular by those that are employed to change, to ensure that the services go to the people and the budget are spent. And the first thing is ensuring or verifying the qualifications of officials in the municipality. Do we have municipality officials that have proper and relevant qualification in all departments? Because if you have officials with wrong qualifications or irrelevant qualifications in various departments, then we'll have these excuses year in and year out. And then we should not be accepting this kind of thing, that we must now know for the fact that no, municipalities are not performing. Why are they not performing? Why are we all not going down? National Treasury, they must go down as well and check what are the problem. Are people qualified? So we are all not spectators. National Department cannot be spectators when municipalities are not performing in our land, because National Department are also working in the land called the municipality areas. So we must assist there. If there's a problem, let's pick it up. That is on the side of the municipalities. I'm quite unhappy that, because it's becoming a norm. No municipalities, we must just accept they are not performing, as if national departments are performing. If municipalities are not performing, which means national departments are not helping them, are not part of municipalities. So they think they have a land up there called national. We don't have such in South Africa. We all are in the municipalities. So when there are problems, we must go down and assist. Then moving to the land bank. You see, the biggest thing, I'm hearing that land bank is now given a lot of support, and the 40 billion debt now is reduced drastically. We appreciate, but where I am, Chairperson, I would love to understand if land bank, is it understanding that since 1994, we have embarked on transforming the South African situation, in particular of those that were previously marginalized. We want them to benefit in the land bank. Whatever effort is land bank, understanding that the majority of South African people were excluded in the benefiting in these institutions, and now people benefiting. When we talk a visible achievement, are there visible achievement that I can be told for the poor people in the rural areas, in the informal settlement, in the townships, so that these institutions must be relevant to ordinary people. If they continue helping the few or those that were always assisted previously, then we're not helping South Africans. We're just continuing with apartheid plans. So that is what I want to know. I want to be told what are the efforts to ensure that the majority, a person in the outskirts, outside the urban areas, is also understanding that there's land bank that can assist. That is what I would love to be told, that at least land bank now is relevant to the majority. No, it's not maintaining the apartheid setup. I'm moving to ESCOM. To ESCOM, the presenter was clear that the update is unaudited numbers. I'm not sure why we are told that the numbers were given unaudited. I don't understand the reason behind that. Whether you want to say we must then doubt these numbers. So I think it's worrying me, the reason that he thought he must tell us that the numbers are unaudited, but we note what is giving us. But as part of ensuring that ESCOM is made to be relevant to South African people and South African industries, because we cannot progress, our economy cannot progress if ESCOM is made to be what we see it becoming, almost a problem for every person. So industries have stopped operating because of ESCOM, and we are made to accept this as almost a godly given instruction that ESCOM must not progress. It is not acceptable. It's not acceptable because before 1994, or even after 1994, ESCOM was working. It can't be now a problem that we have ensured that all South African people must have light, even the rural areas must know that there's ESCOM and there should be lights, there should be electricity. Now, we can't be punished for that now, which means ESCOM would only operate if it operates for the urban areas. So it's not acceptable. What is happening in ESCOM? Those that are working there must know what they are compromising the South African people. Their qualifications as people who understand why they are there is really questionable. We feel that South Africa is compromised by officials, our officials in ESCOM. We are forced to accept what is not acceptable. On municipality, the issue of the debt that is forever escalating, we are also made to accept it. I'm saying this should not be acceptable. We have officials that are properly learned, both in the National Treasury. Others must then be deployed down to assist so that there's no escalation of the debt the officials that are in the municipalities have relevant qualification. They understand why they are there. So otherwise, we'll forever be saying same things without success. But we also want to see the difference in the municipalities in the rural areas where there are no visible income or revenue for such municipalities. We would want National Treasury to have also a clear program for such municipalities where there's no income. But from where we sit, South Africa belongs to all, which means the municipalities that are big, the metropolitan municipalities, somehow we must have a way of helping the poor. We must compensate the poor areas, but there should be proper management in the budget in the municipality, how officials work there, the qualification issue, like I said initially, it should really be something that is looked upon. The people in those areas must feel there's a municipality that assists them. There should be measures to ensure that users are indeed paying as well. Those that is not everybody that cannot pay, but those that can pay even in our townships, there should be some effort to ensure that those that can pay must pay, and they won't pay if the municipality officials are sitting in their offices doing nothing. There should be some efforts to ensure that people pay. I think I'll stop there. On the SAA, is quite worrying as well that SAA is now operating at a loss, and yet the situation we are in South Africa, we're one of the countries in Africa that is seen as a bit of a country that is progressing, which means we should be utilizing SAA with success, but it's worrying that now we really not good in that. I don't know if there are measures that are taken to avoid the recurrences of these loss that were reported about. Clear measures, I think, we should be reported about. Last point is on Transnet. Well, one is forever hoping that Transnet would come back to its former glory days. It seems is promises and promises, things are not really getting right, but we have officials that we seem to trust. We think they must do what is good. Maybe, Chairperson, let me leave the other issues for other members. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Memezi. Before I allow the next speaker, which will be Sheikh Imam, in fact, the next honorable member to ask or comment, let me make these two comments. One, please, honorable members, don't forget to show your faces. The electorate would like to see who's talking to them and who's dealing with their issues. Secondly, I can see that honorable members, you are raring to go. They've been not in Parliament for a long time. Let's try. Okay, now we can see, but it's yeah, that's better. That's better. This honorable members have just finished asking and making comments. Secondly, I usually time you. I'm not going to time you, but let's just be cognizant of the time factor. Let's try to be concise and to the point. I know we've got the burning issues that would really like to take out of our chest. Thank you very much, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Don't read in my statement that perhaps I'm trying to constrain you even before you speak, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Please come in.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. You know, before I go any further, if you remember, Chairperson, repeatedly we talk in this committee about value for money. And if you see the AG's report that was just released, 5.19 billion has been actually wasted in local government alone. And that is only 170 of the 257 municipalities that they have done due diligence on and interrogated and investigated. Already 5.19 billion, where you're not getting value for money. Goods are being ordered, not being delivered, and many other reasons, of course.
Yeah, you are muted, Honorable Sheikh. Honorable Sheikh, ma'am, you are muted. We can't hear you. Yeah, that's.
And National Treasury, in my view, is failing this country. Whether it is entirely because of the fault of National Treasury, or is it because they have limited powers, it's something we need to establish. Now, let me start off by South African Airways. And this seems to be the norm in all the state-owned companies, where we run them to the ground and then we dispose of them for nothing, to the crumbs. South African Airways was sold, each airplane, first of all, in the year 2000, was sold for 35 million rand each and rented back for 44 million rand. I have done everything to try and get to the bottom of it, Chairperson, but I'm being suffocated. Nobody can give us all the answers we want. But can you imagine selling your aircraft, 35 million rand each, renting it back for 44 million, okay, 14 of our airplanes, which I'm now told is being used by the very SAF air that has hit the airspace in South Africa at the expense of the very own, once upon a time, pride and joy of South Africa, the South African Airways. Now I'm getting very limited response, so I'm saying to National Treasury, I don't want to hear the story that no, the reports are no longer available because we keep it for 7 years and 9 years. I want you to tell South Africa, why was our 14 airplanes sold and rented back to us? Because if they were redundant and not fit for purpose, how did you rent them back? Who took those decisions? Which minister approved it? What role did National Treasury play? I see a similar scenario, Chairperson, with many others. But let me finish with SAA. Up to now, there is so much of secrecy around this SAA Takatso deal. I'm asking Treasury to give us, and we need to put a time frame, Chairperson, a report on who is Takatso. What are they actually buying? What are they putting? Who are the actors? What is the link to political parties or politicians, if any? Please tell us what is going on. I see Eskom we're talking about again. While we're pumping money into Eskom, Chairperson, Standard Bank made an announcement the other day that they have partnered with some private enterprises to supply energy which will be much more than what Eskom will provide. Then the question is, if that's the route we are going, are we spending money on Eskom to run it down to the ground again and then make it redundant and shut it up? Or is it to benefit those that are also in the renewable energy, many of whom have an interest in the coal mining sector? Where is Treasury in all these? I like the way Treasury comes and says, we need more money here and we need no more money there. I heard my colleague just talk about local government. Absolutely correct. National Treasury has blocked me there too, Chairperson. I wanted to know from them why we cannot have a more transparent and credible process starting from local government. This election is all about corruption. All political parties are getting money from local government to run the election campaign. I asked Treasury, why can't you make sure on a monthly basis there's a report table for public consumption Who are the people that benefit? What is the name of this company? Who are the directors? What is the value? What is the itemized billing? And what I got back, Chairperson. No, but it is a requirement. I said, but are they complying? No. What are you doing about it? Nothing. Let us not forget about the integrated financial management system. The highest level at Treasury. With the corruption, have we ever heard anything that we've requested previously, Chairperson? Absolutely nothing. Now, I'm not sure why Treasury is not taking this added interest in protecting the resources of this country. Is it because they have limited powers? Please, Chairperson, I want them to tell us what are the problems. Let's talk about Transnet. And I heard the President announce that the waiting time for ships, of course, ships are now no more 60 standing in the harbors and the ports. It's gone to 12. He's absolutely correct. But what Treasury and nobody is telling us, Chairperson, is reduced to 12 because shipping companies have diverted the ships to other ports and we've lost that business too. So where is the economic growth going to come in? Tell me, how are we going to export? What are we going to do? They're not telling us that either. So my question to National Treasury is, what is the problem? You know, at those ports, what I've just been told, Chairperson, and I've got this first-hand information. Mafias are going into these ships, holding the captains hostage and demanding that drugs and things are carried by their ships and offloaded there, whether they like it or they don't. That is the problem. And the security that has been put there are not effective at all because they are colluding, I'm told, with the criminals. That's how serious the problems are at our ports. Some of the captains are saying they really don't want to come to South African waters. Can you tell me on Mango, you're saying that, of course, on the business rescue, nothing has happened, it's at a standstill. What about the aircraft that Mango owned, if they did? Where are those aircraft? What is happening as far as Mango? If SEF Air, your Lift Airlines, Sim Air, a little airplane, are making great success in South Africa, what is the root cause of why SAA has crumbled and why has Mango crumbled? Our own airlines. Let me also ask Treasury, are you putting any measures in place to ensure that where available, every public servant in this country uses the services of your own airline, our own airline? Charity begins at home. What measures are you putting in place? Because our people are flying all the time as I speak to you, so that we can protect our own interests as well. Now, maybe you need to tell us why do you believe and what is the reason you believe is why our state-owned companies, every one of them, Daniel was one of our another pride and joy. What is really the problem? Is it interference with us? Is it the levels of corruption? Is the internal audit systems? Because we only hear about these things when it's too late. What measures can you put in place for us to try and prevent these? Are you asking us to continuously pump in money into these state-owned entities? Okay. But not giving us an assurance that, if you remember, in ESCOM, how many times have National Treasury come to this committee, Chairperson, and said they put conditions for ESCOM and others? Never met, but they continuously come back and say the same thing to us. So please, you know, I'm not wanting to sit here and keep complaining. What I really want to hear, how can we turn this around? What are the obstacles that you can't, to the best of your ability, ensure the success of all these state-owned companies? You know, Chairperson, some of the assets they call strategic assets are just being sold and given. We say the wealth of this country, my colleague just said that as well, the wealth of the country is supposed to belong to the people of the country. But the people of this country have no say whatsoever when we take our wealth and we're just handing it over. That is why this country is still in the hands of a handful of people. All the wealth of this country is in the hands of a few. What are we doing about it? Okay, I'm going to rather stop there for now. I'll just touch lastly on the issue of underspending. We know that for a fact, Treasury, that underspending is an order of the day, particularly in infrastructure. We know that. It's happened again and again, despite all the measures to say we're going to put a special committee in place or commission. It's not happening. And you also know what I know, and we all know, the amount of money we're losing even in infrastructure because of not getting value for money. Chairperson, we went, and I think you were not the chair at the time. We went and saw on infrastructure how schools were standing. A guy gets 2 contracts at the same time, which exceeds his GB rating. Contracts are standing. He's got no money to even buy material. We went to see water projects in the Eastern Cape. Shocked, Chairperson. Nothing is going on. What are we going to do? How are we going to change this? 30 years is gone. Let's change the next 30 years so we can actually do something about it. And on my point that I spoke about local government, tell me, how and what measures are you going to put to ensure transparency? Who are these people getting all the tenders? What are the values? How much it is? So that at least it will be a deterrent and get the public more involved in these things so we can save a lot of money. That is why there's no delivery of services, because there is no money left to deliver stuff. I'll stop there, Chairperson. Are you there, Chair?
Thank you very much and good morning, honorable members. The chairs seem to be cut. We'll take the next speaker there. I think it's Honorable Matafa.
Good morning, Comrade Whip. Thank you for coming in. Comrade Whip, I'm going to request to put my video off. I just put it on so that you can see that it's me behind the call. My network is not stable, so I request to put my video off.
No, okay, accepted.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chair. Let me start by appreciating the presentation and the efforts that were put in compiling the presentation and gathering all the relevant information. Chair, I'm not going to be long because, excuse me, the honorable members before me touched on various points that I had, but I will start first with the one of underspending. The committee has been lamenting this challenge for quite some time, and simply because of the effects that it has on the society at large. Because as much as infrastructure might be visible, the impact thereof, but there are certain areas like education, social services, and health that its impact will only be seen generations to come. And we will always be grappling with the issue of inequality and not being able to put a finger on the pulse to say, but why is this inequality not going away? I want to put it to this meeting that underspending is a contributing factor to the challenge of inequality as we are confronted with as a country. Now, having said that, Chair, we always asked what accountability can be put so that underspending is looked at with a dim view as we do with non-compliance to legislation and set procedures. I think it's time that maybe we request a National Treasury to find out what other measures that are stringent that we can put in place so that those accounting officers, those officials that are underspending but have the necessary support are also feeling the pinch, because maybe due to the work they are in, the packages they earn, they do not feel the effects of their underspending as far as service delivery is concerned. The only ones that feel that will be those that do not have any other option but to rely on government for services, for infrastructure, for other areas of livelihood. Chair, having said that, I just want to pose a direct question to National Treasury. When National Treasury deploys resources to various spheres of government, what do they do with the report of those resources that are deployed in those particular spheres of government? My question is based on the following, Chair. I come from the city of Tshwane, and I was once a councillor there. I know for a fact that National Treasury has deployed resources to the city of Tshwane to assist the municipality govern better, govern properly, run their affairs correctly. Chair, can I just ask, maybe you request members to mute, Chair? There are many voices as I'm giving my input.
Honorable members, may you please mute your microphones? I see here, yes. No, you may proceed, Honorable Matafa.
Thank you very much. Chair, as I was indicating, now, National Treasury would have deployed resources to the city of Tshwane. However, when you listen to the SONA, but not only to the SONA, to the AG audit outcomes emanating from the city of Tshwane, the situation is getting worse, and there seems not to be an improvement. Now, I want to connect the question that I'm asking about the reports from National Treasury to one of the suggestions or alternatives that were placed by the Ministry of Culture to say that they are looking at legislation in terms of how they can intervene directly at local level as well as provincial level, where there is either underspending or bad governance, without evoking the sections that would put these particular municipalities under administration. And for me, Chair, it's a case that I'm rising on because I live in Centurion, but my home is in Soshanguve. And when I leave Centurion and go and visit my parents' house in Soshanguve, you see two sides of the same coin. I move from a well-serviced area, not ducking potholes, but ducking construction workers, ducking programs and projects that are city-led, and then I go to Soshanguve, there is nothing. Sewage is spilling all over, there are potholes, street lights are not working. Basically, the service delivery in townships has collapsed. But money then is sent back to a tune of 2.6 billion from the city of Tshwane to National Treasury on monies that were allocated for township spending. So this speaks to the skewed approach in terms of service delivery. And I'm just interested to find out from National Treasury, what is it that we can do to prevent such a situation? Because if a municipality is going to sit and decide that I'm only going to service the center, the left and the right and the far-flung areas we are going to ignore, and it's fine for Treasury to take this money back. It's okay for Treasury to take the money back, but what are we saying about those people that are denied their constitutional rights of receiving those particular services? So I just want to hear the view of National Treasury on those two issues. The second one, Chair, speaks also to the issue of spending, but on this one, I'm more interested on patterns. We know currently the light that is driving our actions in government is what is called the ERRP, which is presented by the President as a necessary program to turn around the economic fortunes of the country. My question is, from this expenditure report, do we see alignment to the tenets of this particular economic reconstruction and recovery plan as presented by the President? And if not, are there measures to ensure that the whole country follows this particular light? Because we are sitting here lamenting Eskom, lamenting Transnet on the basis that it affects the economy. But here is a plan that is meant to reignite the economy. Are we aligning to that plan? I just want to hear the view of National Treasury on that particular issue, Chair. The last one, Honorable Memezi and Honorable Sheikh Imam spoke well on entities, but they just left two, which is SAPO and Denel. And I want to link SAPO in particular with what Honorable Sheikh Imam is raising. Is National Treasury requiring of government officials to fly SAA? Now, my question that I always have is what is the law saying in terms of government utilizing those services that can also be revenue generating for their entities. A simple example is with SAPO. Is government using the postal services and courier services for SAPO? Communication, are we using the communication systems and tools that SAPO presents to the market? And if not, why not? Because my view is that we cannot sit, Chair, and lament that here is an entity, but this entity is not profitable. But yet, the same people that are lamenting the non-profitability of this entity are spending money elsewhere. So I agree with Honorable Sheikh. Charity must begin at home. Are we using the services of SAPO? Or are we just treating SAPO just like any other enterprise that is competing in the open market? I'm raising this, Chair, because again, like I'm saying, in my previous life, I was a councillor, we'll have those contracts that will ask Treasury that from your own contracts, we would want to acquire a particular spec of this particular equipment. And instead of going to the open market, National Treasury then procures directly from the manufacturer of this particular equipment. Do we have a law that allows government to procure directly from its own entities? And my concern is SAPO, Chair, because that is the one that is currently drowning. And I think that it needs drastic intervention. And the drastic intervention, according to me, is in the purse of government, as government is the biggest spender in most of the services that are being procured in the country. Chair, I will pause only on those issues, but I'm quite happy and thankful for the presentation as presented. Once again, it's good to engage with yourself, Team Treasury. The holidays kept us apart, but we really appreciate you coming back to engaging with us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Matafa. I'm not sure whether the chairperson is back.
Back, but continue, Honorable Kaiso. I'll come in after you.
Yeah, maybe it was my turn to make an input, Chair, and let me also.
Can you see you, Honorable Kaiso?
Oh, I don't know what's happening with this gadget. Okay, Chair. Thank you very much, honorable members, and greetings to all guests on the platform. And let me also return the message of a happy Valentine's Day to the team treasury that was led by Dr. Mampo. Although we were not in a Valentine's meeting, on a lighter note. Chair, my input is on I just want to make this plea first. After this, important presentation that has been made before this committee. Okay, some of the input there will be making, it would seem that we repeat ourselves on a number of questions that we raised previously, but where one could observe that some are not really, taken into, consideration, especially on the issues of state-owned companies and to an extent ESCOM and yeah. But where I wanted to start, Chair, is to make this plea. I know we have met a number of departments in the previous quarters. I'm referring to the local municipalities' challenges, and their financial viabilities. During the presentation of water and sanitation, we made submissions where we actually asked the department to come in to intervene directly in the local spheres where local municipalities are unable to, provide that critical service, where the water sanitation seem to have collapsed, and the water and sanitation department heeded that call and managed to come in smoothly to intervene directly. So I'm now referring to the question that my colleagues have raised around the challenges that are faced by a number of municipalities, which the audit report has actually reflected a wide range of challenges that are associated with the crisis itself. So one of the crises is this one, Chair, the failure to pay salaries to the employees, which creates disgruntlement and can easily be a temptation to civil commotion, play into the hands of civil commotion. So it would be prudent that the National Treasury should not wait, or in fact should have an eye to come in, look in those circumstances. Yes, there were provisions which have been made by the Treasury through the announcement by the ministry to say there's gonna be an intervention in as far as debt owed by municipalities. But then I think this should be an extraordinary step forward to say, even when it comes to the situation, which is like the one that is being, seen in a number of municipalities in the Free State and other parts of the country, where salaries of workers are municipalities which are unable to generate income on their own because of their nature of their, the way they are structured. It's difficult to raise revenue for themselves to become independent. Therefore, National Treasury should not wait and watch, but should come in whilst the problem is being solved. Because it's very much important, especially during this period, as we move forward. We need to see stability. So the National Treasury should immediately come in, stabilize that part which has to do with the workforce, so that there's no commotion that result as a result of non-payment of salaries and wages. That is one recommendation, Honorable Chair. On ESCOM, the issue of, I was listening very carefully when the presentation was being made to say ESCOM strategy or turnaround strategy seem not to work very, seem not to be effective or to work very effective. So under those circumstances where the policy seem not to be effective, it then invites ESCOM board to review or to look entirely on the strategy to make it effective. And that the only way to do that is to review. The board sit down, make an assessment, review the parts that seem not to be, that contributes to ineffectiveness in as far as financial performance is concerned, or poor generating income and other factors. It just needs then the board to sit down, look at that, review what is supposed to be reviewed on those particular areas, and see how it moves forward. Chair, and yes, I just want to make a follow-up. Yes, my colleague have raised the issue of SAA, but I also want to know, because SAA had also some subsidiaries, what had happened to those subsidiaries. So there's an issue around them as well. I also agree with what Honorable Sheikh Imam raised around the issue of other, airlines which have emerged during this process or during this crisis, but now they are, they are lively, they are being, operated on a very successful basis. But we see on this other side of the hand that Honorable Mataf has said, things are not moving smoothly. We're still stuck with the issue of Mango when it doesn't, where is the process? There's a business rescue which has been put in place, but we don't understand, one that misses what is the process is giving us now. or actually how much is it really required to rescue the airline itself. Now, during the course of the year, a number of post offices have had to, shut down a number of branches from 1,000 to about 600 plus. But at the same time, the strategy plan was to say, let there be reconfiguration or restructuring that takes place there at the post office to make it more proficient in future. But now, what I want to know from Treasury is that that approach also work to reduce the branches, or what would it achieve now? How is it going to achieve that reduction, if there's going to be reduction of branches? How is it going to be effectful in terms of, reconfiguration of the post offices? Now, let me also go to ask this question. What are the reasons for the moratorium on the on vacant posts by the South African tourism, and how does it impact on the quality of services provided by the entity itself? Is there moratorium applied across the board in other ways, all levels, and when does the entity intend to lift the moratorium? So I don't want to raise the issue of no, the last one, Honorable Chair, before I step down, is the issue on the overspending due to compensation of employees. I think here, Honorable Chair, it's just very important that there has to be enough provision made for salaries and wages for, such that this does not occur in future. Yes, this came in the middle of negotiations, but there should be always be a provision made such that now this does not occur, that there's overestimated projection or occurring as a result of wage negotiations. So it should be covered. It should not be made an excuse in future, because now it actually worked on the budgets of the department, because that was not made provided for. So thank you very much, Chair. I will come back if there's anything that I've forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Paiso. Let me just check. Is there any other oral member who perhaps I missed in the process, who would like to say something, who hasn't spoken? No. Okay, let me, before I come in, Honorable Mezi, anything that you forgot that you'd like to add?
No, Chairperson, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Mezi. Honorable Sheikh Imam, anything that you'd like to add that you might have forgotten? You're muted, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Okay, Honorable Matafa, anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Chair. No, I am sorted. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Kaiso.
Just one thing, Chair, on the compensation fund, I see here the fund did not spend 36.4 million rand for the compensation of employee. Why is the compensation fund not filling the vacant post whilst there is no spending of 36.4 million?
Okay, thank you. Is that the last one, Honorable Kaiso?
Sheikh Imam, Chair.
I called you, Honorable Sheikh Imam. Please come in.
I'm trying to multitask, or moonlighting, as you call it. Only thing, it doesn't come with a double pay. But now that you're talking to Treasury, it might help. But yeah, I think one of the things is, and I don't want to be misinterpreted, because Treasury, National Treasury might have their hands tied and have limited powers. And what I thought about, Chair, we were all discussing the issue of SAA and the fact that it's not a viable institution at this point in time. But we must also consider the other role players that directly or indirectly that are giving rise to the collapse of SAA. And I'll give you a good example. You have limited air travelers in South Africa, but you continuously go out and give routes to new airlines. And you've even opened up the route for international airlines, which previously used to come to Gauteng, and then the domestic airlines like SA used to, fly them to other provinces. These are some of the things that we need to look at. Now, I know that many people are going to come up and raise the issue of competition, this word competition, this word democracy, this constitutional rights, and all these things that have been put on us by this West to control us must come to an end. We need to take back control of our economy. We need to take back control of our enterprises in this country, because it seems like to me the country is still captured 30 years later. But when I say that, Chairperson, another serious concern that I have is this. Now, I know that this falls under the mandate of the Trade and Industry and Competition, and that is not being done. So I'm not sure where Treasury fits in this. When there is a problem on the ground, I'll give you a good example. If you look at the price at the moment of the airfares that we pay, you'll find from Durban to Johannesburg, it's sometimes 4,500, 5,000, one way single. Now, trade and industry is not doing enough about it, as far as I'm concerned. If you look at the food prices, if you go in there, and I know this is not directly linked to what we're talking about now, Chairperson, but what I am pleading with National Treasury to get more involved, the exploitation of the banks on our people in this country. They close accounts unilaterally and Treasury doesn't even come to their rescue. Why is this happening? Can Treasury not do more to protect our people? You go around, Chairperson, if you went to the supermarkets yesterday and go to the supermarket on Thursday or Friday and look at the difference you'll find in the pricing, you'll be shocked. But nothing is being done. And I'm raising this with National Treasury, that perhaps they need to put some pressures under these departments that they, fund to be able to do more, with the money that they're getting. Not just sit back there and, as this is business as usual. So I just thought I wanted them to have that in mind when they're dealing with the relevant departments. Because the idea here, you're giving air routes to more and more airlines, which is less demand for your SAA. It's becoming a problem. Is that a direct, deliberate attempt to shut us down, all our institutions? Is that what it is all about? Look at the post office, Chairperson. Everybody is now sending parcels here, then everywhere. So what will happen to your post office? It's obvious. If all the renewable energies are going to come and, like Standard Bank is speaking, what's going to happen to your stock? Going to go down, obviously. Now, so I want them to think about this, because you're putting in money. You want to put money. You may be sincere of wanting to save it, but the mechanisms that we got in place is counterproductive to what you're doing. So your own department, are against you in terms of what you want to achieve. But the taxpayer is paying the ultimate price. I'll just stop there, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sheikh Memam, and other members who asked questions and made comments on the presentations made by Team Treasury. And thank you again for the presentations. My question are as follows. Dr. Mampo, you say the calculation of expected expenditure, it's based on what the departments tell you they would have spent by a certain time. So for instance, at this time, I would say on exactly what they would have told you they would have spent. So my question is that, how scientific is that? Shouldn't we, when we're at 75% of the year, expect that 75% roughly of the budget should be paid? Why depend on them? The question of underspending by military veterans. Year in, year out, department, we get this. Yet when you go out, the situation of the military veterans is dire, to say the least. What is the reason? What do they say exactly? You see, this department is responsible for the welfare of the military veterans. Is also responsible for the payment of the fees of the military vets children who are at schools or universities. And you get complaints every day that this is not being taken care of, yet we have got this under expenditure. Perhaps Darren and Machine, we should be writing a letter directly to the department and raising this issue with them. Because I don't think we'll be able to call them. In any case, we are not dealing with appropriations bill. But I think on this one, I think we need to write a letter to them for them to explain this, what's happening here. Underspending by COCTA, again, it's worrying. It's a perennial problem. And we have heard this story of, for instance, where you'd find that the one local government has not complied with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I must say that it seems like this is a problem that we found we are going to leave, and it will be there in the future. Can we find a creative way of trying to deal with this problem? Because at the end of the day, the people who are supposed to receive the service suffer when we are caught up in some bureaucracy between and amongst government departments. The story of more than 2.5 billion rand in Tswane being sent back when the situation is what it is, as Oral Matafa was saying, it's just unjustifiable and indefensible. So my question is, or perhaps even a challenge to you, colleagues from National Treasury, can we please try to intervene here and see how we can intervene, making sure that there's some way of trying to resolve these bureaucratic things which end up not assisting us in terms of expenditure. Honorable Sheikh, is it a legacy hand? Please take it down. Next question. Mampo, I understand the way you put your your comparisons that you made in terms of expenditure and under expenditure. But I would have loved to have another column which shows us the previous year. How did the department perform in the previous year, for us to be able to make comparison to track whether there has been improvement in the department or deterioration. Will that be too much to put in your presentation? Land Bank, please share with the committee the implications of inability to resolve the Land Bank issue since 2020. We've come in as Parliament, provided a recapitalization, but this matter is still not resolved. So what are the implications of this as far as service delivery and the mandate of the Land Bank is concerned? And again, what are the financial implications to the taxpayer of us not resolving this matter? One of the reasons which is being cited for the loss by the Land Bank is the question of impairments. So my reason is when they budgeted, were they not aware of these impairments will be coming? 2, what is the source of the impairments? 3, are they dealing with the source of impairments, or are going to have the same problem next year? I see Eskom owes municipalities about 75 billion rand, if I got the numbers correctly. That's a worry for the municipalities, which you always blame for underperformance. But for them to be owned so much money, it's something we would like to know. What is the intervention that government is trying to is making here? Because many of these municipalities are very small. They can't take this Goliath Eskom legally. But I think there should be some intervention coming from national government to help these municipalities recover their money from Eskom. Related to that, what is the progress on the debt relief of the municipalities, which was shared with Parliament before? What progress are we making as far as that is concerned? Next question. Yeah. I just wanted to get your understanding. Mainly, we said we wanted to strengthen the balance sheet of Eskom so that it can be able to do other things. Now, I hear about the interest which is being introduced. Exactly what does it mean? If you could just share with us to understand what are we trying to achieve there? Because we had said this is equity. This is equity that we're introducing into Eskom. Now, deal with that debt relief to change the loan to equity and so on and so forth. So I'm then saying, when we introduce interest and all the things, aren't we weakening the balance sheet of Eskom, sterilizing the very thing that we wanted to do when we came up with the relief scheme? The next question, I just want to check, because I saw that when we were sharing with us the financials of SAA, it was with their subsidiaries. And perhaps my hypothesis was that perhaps if SAA allowed less subsidiaries, picture may be different. But the question is, what is the financial performance of SAA less its subsidies? Lastly, when you speak about the NEL, the reasons why they are not achieving what they're supposed to achieve is because of the delays in so many other things, which as far as I'm concerned are purely management issues. Do you think we're doing enough to make sure that with these interventions, with these bailouts coming from a parliament, that people are also doing their own? This is our contribution. But when you hear delay in this, delay in that, and so on, and when you look at those things, most of them are controllables within the company itself. What is happening here, or what is not happening? I think those will be my questions, and oral members will then be listening to National Treasury. Dr. Mampo and your team, please make sure you answer all the questions. Those that you can't answer, please tell us that these I can't answer, but tell us what you are going to do with those that can't be answered. For instance, the answer may be lying with another department, but you are here, you are speaking on behalf of government, so, and their budgets. Dr. Mampo, please come in with your.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm just going to ask Ravesh and the IGR team to come in, and then Public Finance will come at the end.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Modise. Thanks for that, and thanks, Honourable Chair and Honourable members, for those valuable questions and comments. I think before I get the team to respond, Honourable Chair and Honourable members. Yes,
Ravesh?
Honourable members.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're fine. Thank you. Yeah, that was my next statement. I want to see you. Okay.
Okay,
you.
makes sense. My apologies for that. I think before I get the team to respond, I think what's important, I just want to give a few broad responses.
Ravesh,
can you hear me?
You may switch off your video. We see you now. We can't hear you now. I'm sure you are connected.
All right, perfect. So I think from my side, before we get the team to respond, just a few broad, responses to the comments and the questions. I think, just in terms of, what are the challenges at the SOCs? I think there was just a broad, comment in terms of what is going on at the SOCs and what are the challenges. I think we had this question before, and I think from a treasury perspective, I think we are, largely responsible for, for ensuring oversight of these entities. So obviously we have the executive authorities that actually are responsible for these entities, and then we just provide oversight to ensure that they don't, come back to the fiscus or rely on, bailouts or, government guarantees, that they meet their KPIs, they show the compact targets, and so forth. But I think generally what we've been seeing with most of these entities, and hence we come here on a quarterly basis, is that we generally tend to see a lot of change in the, in the boards, in the management, and then come with that, we have, turnaround plans that then need to be funded, which is problematic because then basically it's a new turnaround plan, which basically needs, funding. And when they cannot generate funding internally, then it falls back on to the fiscus in some form or the other. So I think if we have that consistency in terms of, a consistent board with the executive management with the right skills and the experience, then I think there shouldn't be an issue with these entities. I think that's I think that's the first comment. I think the second one, it was just the broad comment around the conditions. Yes, we do note that I think the the comment was made around the Eskom Finance Company, for example, where we've included this as a condition in Honorable Chair, if you recall, since 2019 in the previous support package for Eskom, where they haven't met this condition. So, what we are doing, and I think Tabang will get into the details, is obviously we are, including a, condition in the Eskom Debt Relief Amendment Bill, where, for example, if Eskom doesn't dispose of that Eskom Finance Company by the end of March, then the minister will have, the power to then reduce, the disbursements going forward. Obviously, not to the detriment of Eskom. So I think that's quite important. I think that, there'll be those type of conditions where that, those will be imposed. And then also linked to that as well is, if you recall, honorable members, is that, historically we've been providing pure recapitalizations with no recourse in terms of them not meeting the conditions. So, where this has changed now for the likes of Eskom is, for example, we provided them a loan. And obviously, if they don't meet the conditions, then that loan won't be converted to equity, which obviously will be to the detriment of the entity. And then it, enforces them to comply to the conditions before we convert them into a loan into equity. And also, as Tabang will get into the details, interest will be charged on the loan as well. So it's not going to be a pure form of a recapitalization like we've done in Eskom. So we are thinking along the lines of just providing these support packages. Hopefully there won't be too many to entities, so that there is some recourse to the fiscus and also to Parliament to hold the entities to account in terms of meeting those conditions. I think the last broad point I just want to mention, I think in terms of exclusivity and just around, I think there's a lot of talk around the post office where we can oblige government to use the services of, for example, the post office or Fly SAA. For example, I think we just need to bear in mind that, these obviously will then have to be, or, should actually be ensconced in some sort of act, which is the SAA Act and so forth. But however, those have to be consistent with the procurement, policies and to ensure that we're getting value for money. So while it's not the case where we are forced to fly SAA, I think, one must remember that we're also looking at the cost as well in terms of, what is the cost benefit analysis, to government in terms of using an SAA versus a SAFA and so forth. So I think that needs to just be, to be, brought into perspective in terms of when we're using or we're trying to oblige government to use those services. So I just wanted to bring that to the fore, but I think those questions will be best answered by the likes of, DPE, who's the executive authority for SAA, and then a DCDT for the post office. Let me then hand over, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, to firstly Lefenza to deal with Land Bank. We've got part 2 to deal with some of the SAA questions. I think George as well will deal with SAPO, and then lastly Tabang will deal with ESCOM. So let me just go in that order, and if the colleagues can come in, and once you finish, the next the colleague can take over once they have completed. So Lefenza, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ravesh, and thank you, Chair. I'll start with the question from Honorable Memezi, where he is asking for the Land Bank to go deeper in terms of financial inclusion.
Lefenza, let's see you.
Sir,
Let's
Chair?
see you. Then you can switch off if you are. Let's see who are talking to.
Okay, can you see me now? Adjust my camera.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine. I'll talk while the camera is on, and if it affects me, then I'll switch it off.
Perfect.
You honorable member, you'll remember that the focus of Land Bank now is on the blended finance in order to make sure that it actually improves on financial inclusion, especially more on the transformation of the agricultural sector and into the black market. And in that way, the agreement of the blended finance is between Department of Agriculture and Land Bank, where the Land Bank doesn't necessarily do it alone in terms of accessing, in terms of actually providing loans to the clients. So the blended finance, mainly the target is more on transformation of agriculture and making sure that it serves the majority of black people. So what we'll do is that, because Land Bank has not actually given us the breakdown of the number and the demographics in terms of who have actually benefited out of the numbers that I've given earlier on, of about 600 million of loans that have already been disbursed. I will make sure that I ask Land Bank to provide the breakdown of that, and then ensure that I provide that report to Parliament. And then when it comes to the questions from the chair, which basically looks at, one, the implications of a default. Look, Chair, the default has got a very, very serious implication for, especially on our SOCs. One is that it actually makes it very difficult for the lenders to actually have confidence in the ability of SOC to actually repay. So the confidence has actually dropped. Secondly, it has actually made the borrowing cost of other SOCs to actually go high. And one of the entities that actually have requested us to resolve the issue of Land Bank default much more speedily has been the DBSA. They have been vocal about it every time we meet with them, because it affects how they actually can raise market in funds in the capital market. And as such, it also affects how they can actually perform to deliver on their mandate. That has been the more of the implications of it. I'm not sure to what extent does it actually affect the private sector, but I can only focus myself on the SOC side. The impairments have actually been mainly because of the quality of the loan books. And if you look at it, say, Land Bank has been budgeting for this impairment. In some instances, they have actually budgeted more. And then you would have a situation where there are releases of the impairments because you realize that the impairment were not as worse as they expected to be. And in some instances, they've under budgeted. Now, when you see my numbers, I've actually put it as net impairment charges. So it means we've actually minus those that have performed well from those that have performed badly, and we are left with a number that actually lead us to about 252 million. But just to answer you, the impairments have been budgeted for. The question is, have they actually been budgeted exactly this at the level of the quality of the debt on the loan book of the land bank? Remember that at some point the land bank had to do evaluation of their land book from when it actually defaulted, and it wanted to check whether the quality of the land book reflected the amount or the number that you see in terms of the land book. And there were instances where you realize that the loan that is actually being owed, the quality of it has been less, and in such that land bank would actually recover less than what is expected or what is seen actually in the land book. So this has actually caused a lot of problems. But to be honest with you, the situation is improving because you realize that land bank has managed to repay a large portion of the debt. And to what extent will it actually land bank be able to raise every cent of the money that is lent? It actually tells as actually time goes. But land bank has been able to actually recover a lot of money. In some instances, it actually recovered the exact amount that you see in the book. In some instances, it recovers less than what you see in the book. But what I will do also, I can also ask the land bank to provide us with a full report in terms of the evaluation and the impairment losses and how it's actually planning to make sure that it recovers every cent that is reflected in the loan book. Thanks, Ramesh, thank you.
Thanks, Lepiaza Patu.
Good morning, Chair. Let me just put on that video. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honorable members. I will deal with the questions that are raised on Mango and SAA. In terms of the sale and leaseback of SA aircraft and the current state of the Mango aircraft, these questions need to be referred to the Department of Public Enterprises and as executive authority. We will be raising these questions with them in the monitoring meeting that we have, and once we have details, we'll be able to provide feedback. In terms of the route rights, the domestic and international, these questions need to be referred to the Department of Transport. The details on the Takato Consortium. So one of the conditions that has been attached to the funding was around the provision of some of these details to ourselves as National Treasury. We're yet to receive the sale and purchase agreement for the strategic equity partnership. We will only be able to do the review and provide feedback once we receive the relevant documentation from the Department of Public Enterprises. Then there was a question on the subsidiaries. What is the current state of the subsidiaries of SAA? The three subsidiaries still remain within the SAA group. That is namely SA Technical, Airchefs, and Mango, albeit Mango is still under business rescue. And there was a question of where are we with the Mango business rescue? There are currently processes underway, and these are being challenged in the courts. So we're unable to provide any commentary on that until these legal processes have been completed. Then, Honorable Chair, you asked the question on what is SAA standalone financial performance. So SAA as the airline has made a loss of 725 million, but the consolidated group profit is 776. So a significant amount of that loss for the SAA group is due to the financial performance of SAA. Thank you.
Thanks, Patu. George?
Thank you, Ramesh. I'll be responding to the questions posed on SAPO, specifically the one on, we'll start with the one on the branches. Just not to affect the bandwidth, and I'll just switch off my video, if that's okay, Chief. So the reduction of branches, as I've reported it, it's come down from what I think sits in the slides now as 1,000 to somewhere around 500 and something post offices that are now left to remaining as per plan. So that is the reduced ones. It's not just picking a number that this is the efficient number that this place can run at with this number of people. It includes in the post offices that were initially rented out, like rented buildings that were sitting in malls, some of the properties are actually just completely derelict buildings that were not taken off, never operated. Some of them were land that was bought with the intention of building a post office in certain areas. And unfortunately, economically, these areas never grew, or there was never a need for post office in that specific section. What then happened is the business practitioners came in to find an already study that was done, and information that the post office had of which post offices in which area would like to be either reduced down in a region. You'd find a certain number of offices. So they've rationalized it to a point where you still have post offices in that section, but you wouldn't have the same number. So they would close some of them and not necessarily all of them. So that's part of the restructuring, trying to bring down the operational cost generally of these offices to a manageable level where some are not profitable at all. The sole existence of these post offices would then just be serving one or two customers at the point. But if we look at the cost, it's actually the personal cost, and the highest cost would then be municipal cost of having the post office there. So it's in effect not just reducing. Maybe a better word is then rationalizing of the branches down, Chair. And I believe Ravesh has already answered a little bit of the one on government services. The question was why charity must begin at home. And yes, the post office does have some of the courier business from some of the government departments, and maybe to add on to emphasize what Ravesh had said is that they needed to compete for these businesses with other businesses, and to have that as a law of some sort, it would have to be entrenched like firmly, and it would not go without being challenged by its competitors in the market. Thanks, Ravesh.
Thanks, George. Tabang on Eskom. Thanks.
Thank you, Ravesh. Thank you, Honorable Chair and honorable members. Yeah, I think there were quite a lot of questions on Eskom, so I tried my best to take them. So not in particular order, but let me just start by why we had to state the numbers are not audited. Actually, I can maybe switch off my camera because sometimes my internet is not
Please,
good.
Tabang, yeah, you may
Yes.
switch it off.
Yes. The chair, honorable chair, I think the issue of us raising the numbers as not audited is not really to cast aspersion or to say the honorable members should judge the numbers. That's our language in finance and accounting. In case at the end of the year the numbers have been audited and there are changes. So it was just to be transparent with members and how we as finance people view the numbers. But if that is very uncomfortable with the House, so Chair, we will remove that statement next time. But yeah, it's not really to say the numbers can't be trusted or anything. So that's our language in space to cater for any changes at the end when the auditors audit the numbers, Chair. So I think that should be clear.
Yes, Tabang. Sorry to do this. So that I just don't forget it, right?
Yes.
I think to stress that is that all what you are saying is that these are not audited numbers. They haven't been subjected to the Auditor General or whoever is doing external audits. So that's what it is, right?
Yes.
So I'm trying to counter this thing that next time perhaps you will remove this language. I think you have explained it, and that's how it should come. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. And I think thanks so much. I think moving to other questions, let me just address this question on electrification and the provision of free basic electricity services to the poor or to non-income household. Chair, I think that is being taken by government seriously. And if you look at how the tariffs and the policy of government in the energy space, how it's being structured. For instance, the electricity tariffs or tariffs are structured in such a way that households are encouraged to conserve electricity. So the lower the consumption, the lesser the customer should pay. So the cost to supply lower consumption customers is much higher than it is for higher consumers. But for the poor are protected through what we call a transparent tariff structure involving cross subsidies. That is approved by NESA, for instance. I don't want to go into details. There are different models for protecting the poor. Like the existing mechanism include the inclining block tariffs or free basic electricity, where in instances like in rural areas where there's no income or there's a low consumptions, is either the electricity is being provided free or there's a cap in terms of consumptions, and those who consume less, then they should not pay. So the structure and the policy has been designed in such a way that the poor are protected from this. And I think as we have heard even from the last debating of the SONA, the electrification has grown so much over the years that almost now 90% of people in South Africa are being have access to electricity. So that shows the progress government has done over time, recognizing where we come from and the commitment we have to provide to our people. So I think on that too we can, and I think moving to the issue of municipalities resolving their problems and those who have to pay must pay. I think that's a very good point that has been made, because I've seen the magnitude of unpaid municipal debt is significant, and it hinders Eskom's ability to remain liquid, whilst also providing additional service to the same municipalities. I think the year-to-date growth it's very discouraging, and especially because now some of these are coming from metros, right? Metros, so it's a combination of metros and non-metros. Of particular concern, you can see the growth area debt coming from metros like in Gauteng, like Tshwane, Ekurhuleni, and Johannesburg. And then I think we agree with the honorable member that municipalities should implement prudent financial management systems, get people at the right positions with the right qualifications, and manage the affairs very well. And also those who have to pay. I mean, that's the principle that we apply on the user pay principles, that as a country, there should be that culture that those who can pay should pay for the services, because these services are not provided, they are not free. There's a cost into it, and those who can should pay. And we also discourage that who can pay are not paying. I think it's not a good citizenry, and yeah, and I think it should get to a point where we all move towards that direction. And I think moving to Honorable Sheikh Imam's questions around, are we helping Eskom with this financial support in order to run it down? I think that's not our motive, Honorable Imam. From Treasury, I think even when we introduced the Eskom debt relief, we did acknowledge that the Eskom debt relief alone is not a silver bullet into resolving Eskom challenges, because if you look at their challenges quite closely, Eskom situation is exacerbated by lower than anticipated tariff increases, increase in non-paying payment by municipalities, as we have highlighted, declining sales volumes, increases in cost base, and operational challenges, as we said, with the weakening of plant performance. That should, in our sense, that should move in tandem. All these levers should be implemented, not only the financial support, but with the financial support, we wanted to hit the ground running in such that we also encourage different role players, executive authorities who are in charge of ESCOM, that let's move forward, because what we've seen with the debt relief, it alleviated ESCOM, alleviated the pressure on ESCOM of servicing the debt obligation, as ESCOM is carrying high levels of debt. So leaving ESCOM to their demise is not our thing. That's why we want to step in to make sure that ESCOM doesn't default on their commitment, as that will have a dire consequences for ESCOM and for the fiscals and the entire country. And in the ESCOM debt relief arrangement, what we sought to do, the conditions, we drafted, as Raveja said, drafted the conditions differently from how we're doing it before. This way, we said, ESCOM, we are giving you money, you must concentrate on fixing your power plants, because power plants, as you see, the installed capacity is sufficient to cater for the needs and the demands of the country. But the problem is that those power plants are not giving what we want. So here's the money. Make sure that you focus on effective maintenance of philosophies of these power plants. As well, we're giving a room to expand your transmission lines in order to connect the new generation projects that are coming, renewable gas, so that at the end, we have a system that is robust, that is able to connect projects wherever they are located. And also ESCOM installed capacity is performing to the maximum of the optimal level so that we can get what we want. So the conditions have been drafted in such a way that we also have placed the burden on ESCOM to improve their finances. So I think for our side, we thought that this is not to, in any way, we don't want to see ESCOM falling. Honorable Chair, we don't want to see ESCOM as a point where they can't meet the obligations. And we took that seriously, and their sustainability, liquidity, and going concern status. As you can see, the going concern status now is being maintained by the support they are receiving from government. So this debt relief is characterized by a set of stringent conditions. And non-compliance with this condition will require ESCOM to pay back this loan. Unlike before, we would just give ESCOM, but this time around, we're paid. And I think we have seen the improvement even around the ratings because of this debt relief. The S&P on November 23 has upgraded ESCOM long-term credit ratings with a stable outlook. That was done after the ESCOM Debt Relief Act was assented into law, which supported ESCOM in meeting their service obligations. So the issue of ESCOM defaulting has slowly disappearing because of our support. So we also, moving to the other question on the generation plans, we also share the same sentiments, and as a country, that we have been in this situation for quite a while, and the situation seems not to be improving. But I think with the appointment of the permanent head of generation, I think it was the end of last year, they went on the process of refining some of their philosophies around the generation plant, and also bumping up their maintenance to deal with unplanned losses, because most of the challenges are coming from the power plants that are breaking down. So I think the focus of the new that will also be reflected in the new corporate plan. We have a hope that in future, most of these unplanned losses will be clamped down, and that will help us to move towards dealing with load shedding or reducing the levels to quite low levels. And I think it's not all gloom and doom, Chair. I think we are seeing a progress. It's just the progress, probably especially from our side, they might be not satisfactory or visible, but we certainly believe there will be the light at the end of the tunnel, given what we are implementing, and also other new generation capacity coming online, because we wanted to fast track that on that progress. And I think moving to what is the kind of like the purpose of the interest, given that ESCOM has is experiencing financial challenges and why we had to introduce this interest and whether it's not creating a burden on Eskom finances. I think from our side, Chair and Honorable Members, the National Treasury is introducing this interest mainly to better reflect the cost of this arrangement, with the interest charge being market related, and also to be in line with the standards of our classifications for these subordinated loans. And in developing the interest to be charged, we sat down with Eskom because National Treasury was cognizant of the delicate balance that needed to be struck between ensuring that such interest does not negatively impact on Eskom cash flows, while at the same time reflecting a fair market related. And we have taken a very cautious and simple approach in developing the interest, and we sat down with Eskom, worked out the modalities and the mechanics and the numbers. And at the end, we could get to a point where we correctly classify this subordinated loan given to Eskom, as well at the same time not creating a burden on the fiscus, on the Eskom and fiscus. And I think in our next appearance in the committee, we'll also give you a feedback, because now the interest regime will only be effected once the Eskom debt amendment bill that is going through parliament process is being approved and acted into law. So I think even the next appearance, you will come and appear and you'll see the numbers once we're implemented, that the numbers are quite minimal. We have struck a balance between reflecting correctly this arrangement, also not creating a burden on the fiscal. Eskom is on board with this. And I think, Chair, on your director, on questions around the progress on municipal debt relief package for municipalities, I think that is handled by our colleagues from IGR. I'm not sure if one of them is here, but if they are not here, Chair, we can take that questions to them and provide a written response to you, Chair. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks to Bang and team. I think, Chair, we hand over now to IGR. I think it's Kali and the team, if they can come in. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members and colleagues. Somewhat Sifiso Mabaso, he'll mostly answer the local government questions. From my side, I'll answer the one about what do we do, the reports from other sphere of government. I'm responsible for overseeing the implementation of provincial budgets. So what we normally do, firstly, both from provincial side and local government side, we do publish the reports on the website and also the government gazette at the end of each quarter. But also what we do, the reports on a quarterly basis specifically, we meet with national departments together with their counterparts in provinces, particularly on conditional grant spending, to assess what has taken place for that particular quarter and how best can the sector improve if the spending requires improvement for that particular period. For example, we're going to start having those discussions now that we have published the third quarter spending, particularly for provincial sphere, and by end of January. So we'll be starting to have those discussions with each sector at national level. But also what both chief directors do, at this time of the year, normally they will have the mid-year visit, but I'm sure FISO will speak about it most in terms of how, even from our side, in our case, we meet your education, your health, and all those departments in provinces to discuss their performance and obviously getting a sense of how are they intending to improve their performance. So, and obviously with working from anywhere with virtual platforms, we're able to have such engagements, particularly from our side, more often than we used to, where we have to fly to a particular province to have such. But with these visual platforms, it gives us more opportunity to have regular engagements with whichever province that we have the view that requires more attention. So before it gets to the level of Section 100, in particular for provincial sphere of government. I'll hand over to Sfiso to provide more response on the local government side. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My name is Professor Mabaso, National Treasury at Local Government Section. I'll switch off the camera and honorable members so that the bandwidth can improve. With regard to the questions that has been posed by honorable members on local government, a number of them have been already responded to by my colleagues from public finance. So I won't necessarily repeat, but safe to say, Chairperson, that the number of initiatives that the local government we are doing in regard to oversight responsibility. As we speak, Chairperson, the team from national government, local government budget analysis are throughout the country, visiting municipalities, engaging them on the media visit, meaning to engage them with regard to the performance as at media, as at 31 December. So it's quite a robust sessions where we visit municipality, 2-day session. Day one, we engage with them in terms of the performance and then in a boardroom or in a municipal offices. And day two is a site visit where we go physically and look at the infrastructure performance. We select project based on a certain criteria. Example, we will select a project that is underperforming. We will select a project that is overspending. And also we'll select a project that is on track and also within budget and within the project scope. So those are the criteria that we use to select and then visit the municipalities. The same process is being replicated by our provincial treasuries, that they visit the other municipalities that they look after, those that are delegated to them in oversight responsibilities. So in March, once the municipality has already presented their budget, that's another different process now, where we engage them with their budget and then have a robust discussion with them and also test their budget, whether is it funded or not funded. So based on whatever outcome that we engage them on, and then we provide feedback to them to go and make the corrections and then also implement a funded budget. As Chairperson, honorable members will recall, Parliament has issued a directive that no municipality should be allowed to adopt and also implement an unfunded budget. So we also enforce that, also make it a point that municipalities adhere to that parliamentary directive. So those are the engagement that we deal with the municipalities. Yes, Honorable Chairperson, there's quite a lot that is happening in the country, and as we read in newspapers, municipal failures and all that that we also read about. But Chairperson, as an honorable members, there are quite a number of initiatives and also reforms that we are running, trying to reverse that situation and also trying to make improvement. Yes, there are other municipalities that are doing well relative to others, but also though the numbers are still showing that the problems or the challenges that municipalities are faced with is quite vast and also deeper. But we are handling that situation. And also we do have the financial recovery service that is now up and running within the National Treasury. That service, it's only looking after those municipalities that are falling or are failing to deliver as per the mandate in the Constitution, and also that are not handling things well. There are certain criterions that we also use to identify those municipalities that should fall under that recovery service. So those are the measures, Chairperson, that we do have in the system that we are aggressively pushing or going through all that. I will hand it over back to you, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and Honourable Members. Julia de Bruin from the Treasury Public Finance. I think it was the Honourable Kaiso that asked the question about COE in the compensation fund and the underspending there, or the slow spending there of 36 million. So, Honourable Members will remember, we presenting the public entities, that is the second quarter report for them. And there are two reasons for the underspending there on COE, if you want to call it underspending, slower than projected. It's vacant positions, as well as a delayed payment that they have to make to the department for the salaries, because the people in the comp fund work on a split service basis with the Department of Employment and Labour, as well as the comp fund. So if you take that second part out, then the projected underspending is about 18 million, which is 3%. And generally, I mean, it's the same reason for all the vacant posts that we have. Departments and entities have to run a process. The process takes longer than anticipated. So in our world, a 3% deviation is not something to necessarily be overly concerned about. Thanks.
Rendani, you're muted.
Oh, thanks, MM. Good morning, honorable members. I will deal with the question raised by the chairperson on military veteran, and I will also try to link that question to the question raised by various members on underspending. The Department of Military Veterans provides various socioeconomic benefits, health, education, and of late it's pension. And they are not the direct implementers of these benefits. For example, health is provided by military health services, education by NSFAS, and housing is by human settlement.
Mr. Randela, still there?
Chairperson, I think Rendani has connectivity issues. While he sorts them out, can I ask Edgar to just deal with the wage bill question, and then Rendani will come in and just conclude on the military veteran question. Ed?
And then when you come in, please switch off your video. Okay, continue, and Edgar.
Edgar?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
My apologies. We seem to be having technical issues and connectivity problems all around. Good morning, honorable members, honorable chair. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me preface my remark by indicating that, of course, as members will be aware, we will be tabling a budget next week. And in the context of the budget, we also have reflections on what we're seeing in terms of the updated estimates for the outcomes for 2023-24, which of course can only come out at that time on the 21st. In the meantime, I think from where we are sitting now, Chair and honorable members, we have sought to deal with the wage bill issues in two ways. The one way in which we've sought to deal with it is to assist departments to implement measures to improve efficiency, both within and within their compensation budgets and other areas of the budget, so that they're able to afford the staff that they currently have. And in this regard, we have prioritized different departments. So, for example, we have proposed guidelines both to national and provinces to reduce the hiring of non-core staff in favor of core frontline service delivery staff, particularly in education and health. In addition to that, secondly, At the time of the MTBPS, we, as members will be aware, introduced a proposal for some additional funding, not just for the in-year, but over the MTEF for the staffing requirements of specific areas, health, education, the police, and so forth, which are personnel intensive. Going forward, we have a 2-year wage agreement that's still in effect. And so the next time that a new set of discussions on wages will be discussed, or the next year in which it will be relevant, is for 2025-26. So for the current year, it's still the same wage agreement that is effective, and we will continue to manage things on the basis of that, and to help departments on the basis of that. What we're seeing at the moment in terms of the current year, and some colleagues have already touched on this to some extent in different ways, is that there are, as the presentation also indicated by Dr. Modise, there are 1 or 2 areas of pressure, and we're working with those departments, particularly the police. But a majority of departments appear to be handling the pressure relatively well, and we think that they will come within budget for the purposes of the current financial year. And so, Chair, that's where we are, and that would be the comment that I would make in terms of our wage bill management, and the outlook for wage agreements, both in the current period and over the MTF. Thank you.
Renani, are you back?
Yes, I'm back. Am I audible?
Yes, please continue.
Thanks and apologies for that. I was still dealing with the underspending in military veteran. They provide various socioeconomic benefits like health, which is provided by military health services, education by NSFAS, and then housing by human settlement. So since they are not the direct implementers of these benefits, sometimes they face some delays because of the implementing agent, like issues of dealing with invoices, non-delivery of houses by human settlement, and some other reasons. But the part of the reason peculiar to this department, it's leadership and management instability. I don't still remember having a DG lasting for more than a year or 2 years in that department. As we speak now, we have got a newly appointed acting DG. So these are some of the challenges that the department is facing, Chair. And I welcome and support your proposal that at some point you have to engage directly with the department. Still on underspending, I think there are those reasons leading to underspending that are within the control of the department, and those ones that are outside the control of the department. For example, in the infrastructure space, these days we have the construction mafias causing huge disruptions in the delivery of infrastructure. And it is for this reason that there's within the police now, there's even a task team, I think it's called Economic Infrastructure Task Team, to deal directly with those problems impacting on the economy. And again, there are those, there is that underspending, which is as a result of the efficiencies, like where departments come up with efficient way of doing business. I think 2 or 3 years ago, when we came here, we presented, for example, an underspending by police, because during that particular year, they found better ways of doing businesses, hence the underspending. I'll end here, Chair. Thanks. Back to you, MM.
Thank you, Renani. Thank you, Chair. So, Chairperson, to your specific question, I think the best way to explain this is that when the department deal with the projections for what they're going to draw down, they have to take into consideration the spending that is routine, like salaries, municipal fees, rent. Those are easy to estimate on what will cost each month. But there's also expenditure such as transfers and subsidies. Some departments have to transfer earlier. That would be, for example, Department of Higher Education and Training, because they have to transfer to NSFAS. But you also have those transfers that can be quarterly, and that would be transfers such as money to PRASA. But if you find a situation where an entity is spending well and they're spending much better than anticipated, then the department will transfer funds earlier. But if you find that an entity is not spending according to, or there's no progress, then the department will delay the transfers. So I think it just depends on the type of spending, the type of department, and how they align their payment schedule. But we use these drawings, Chairperson, just as an estimate, because we get all of this from the departments, and they know better their finances and how these monies will be transferred. What we do, Chairperson, just to give comfort to the committee, is that we also have a rolling drawing. So we allow departments to change their drawing schedule as and when the circumstances change, so that when we come present to the committee, at least we present the most updated drawing schedule. So it's not necessarily scientific per se, but departments are allowed to basically schedule their payments such that they fall within their purpose and what they need to do. So that is one thing that I thought, let me just clear. Chairperson, of course, we will add the column of the previous years. We can even add 5 years going back. It's just that when we did the presentation now, because of the budget reductions, what was key for us was to look at whether departments are going to be able to fit within these adjusted budgets. So that's why we didn't have it, but of course, we will send it through. So, Chairperson, and honorable members, as Dr. Ndani was explaining the underspending, there are different types of underspending that we look at. So, for example, in COGTA, most of the underspending can be attributed to, for example, when municipalities budget for unfunded budgets, between them submitting those unfunded budgets, working with them to change their budgets, then getting them to a point where they present funded budgets. Between that period, then COGTA will withhold the grants, and then those grants will be paid later. Or, for example, the municipalities are struggling to adhere to the Division of Revenue conditions, those funds will be withheld, and then later on, those funds will be released. So usually you will find significant underspending in the COGTA budget during the course of the fiscal year, but later on, those will be cleared. And another thing that I think is critical, especially for COGTA, is that the financial year for local government is June, and 1st of July to end of June, I think. So that quarter lag also creates some level of underspending, because what it means is that municipalities have a quarter extra to try and adhere to these conditions, and then those funds will be transferred. But to be fair to honorable members, yes, and underspending is a problem that we see, and especially if we're looking at underspending in capital budgets, that is where a lot of work needs to be done, where one, the planning is done correctly, we do planning, and then secondly, we project our procurement processes, or we start with the procurement processes much earlier and clear them out, so that when the budget comes, then there's not a lot of issues of planning or procurement delays, and then avoiding underspending. So I think for capital projects, the manner in which we need to start pushing departments to do is proper planning, proper procurement processes and supply chain management processes, And then once the budget has been allocated, it should be allocated to departments that are ready for implementation, so that it reduces the unnecessary underspending. What we have done, Chairperson, even in the MTBPS, is that we tend to adjust these budgets and move funds from departments that are likely to underspend to those departments that have pressures. I think in allowing that movement between funds will also assist in dealing with some of the underspending. In the budget, Chairperson, I think we're still working on it. Of course, it's still final stages, but we are likely to issue a second adjustment budget where we also look at how do we repurpose funds between votes to deal with areas of pressure. But of course, that will only be confirmed and tabled in next week, Wednesday, by the Minister of Finance. But the key is, from the Treasury perspective, while we assist the department, while we try to help municipalities and other spheres of government, what we also do is try to bring some flexibility in the budget process where we move funds between votes, especially for votes that are likely to underspend, so that at least you don't punish the departments that are planning properly, but those that are not planning, is not like the next year their budget will be reduced because of the underspending, but it's more of, if they are ready then to implement this project, then the full funding will be provided. So it's more of how do you also bring some level of flexibility in the budget process to deal with this issue of underspending. Chairperson, I think those would be the responses. I will definitely send Darren the updated presentation with the information that you have requested. Thank you so much, Chair and honorable members.
Dr. Mampo and the team, thank you so much. I think it was a worthwhile interaction. As I release you, I don't know how many times can I emphasize this one. You see, most of the things that we talk about, the planning and so on, we know when budget comes, especially when it comes to underspending. I think more than 50% of the problems that we're having there, it's a question of a lack of project management skills in the departments. ASICOs, not the skills are just not there. And I think it would be a good investment for this government to invest in that and just make sure that we massively train project managers in the departments who help with all these things of, we know now when the budget comes and so on, and putting up the plans and so on. But I can tell you, it's something that I think we've been talking about, Mampo, from the first day of our term. So I can tell you this for nothing, that it'll be a massive investment for government. It will help in a lot of things as far as the service delivery is concerned. So whether we appoint them and so on, but we train those who are within the system, that will really assist us. Having said that, thank you very much, Team Treasury, for taking time to engage with the committee. All of the best with the budget next week. Thank you very much. That item has been taken care of. Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. And then let's go to agenda item number 5, the annual report. As you know that we always table annual report at the end of the year. There is a draft report which has been sent to the oral members. We were trying to solicit inputs from yourselves. You still have some time, at least for this week. The next time we meet, we would like to present the report for adoption. Any comments? Mashile, on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. The report has not been sent to members yet, pending on the internal processes, but as soon as we are done, it'll be sent to members for considerations and inputs. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's do that. Can you send it right away so that they can start looking at it? Okay.
Definitely, I will do that, Chair. Yes.
Right. Other members, can you go to the minutes of the 29th of November, 2023?
Before that, Chair,
no.
before that one, we do have the draft program for term 1 for adoption. Can I fly it?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, please. Okay, thank you. Okay. So today, just go over it. Today, it's Wednesday, 14th, right? So keep on rolling. Next week, it's budget. Joint briefing on Thursday of the committees by the minister. Then come next week, PBO and FFC briefing of the committees, both appropriations, select and standing. 28, we have got briefing by National Treasury on the Division of Revenue Bill. March the 5th, FFC on the Division of Revenue Bill. 6th of March, PBO on the same bill. Tuesday, 12th of March, SALGA. And then we've got public hearings on the 13th of March on the Division of Revenue Bill. And then the committee, we are meeting again on the 19th. Consideration and adoption of committee's draft report on the Division of Revenue Bill. Adoption of the committee legacy report on the 6th Parliament on the 26th. And then we're debating on the 27th. Okay. Thank you. Yes, but Darren?
Yep. Here we go.
Darren? And you
Hi,
had
Chairperson.
You heard even from MAMPO that we may be having a special appropriations bill, and I think I spoke to you about it. I don't see it in the draft report. In the draft
Yes,
program.
Yes, Chairperson. I was trying to raise my hand now, but for some reason I don't know how. I was just about to say that Mashilef is fighting the old program. I did make amendments and I incorporated the additional bill to be tabled into the draft report. I don't know if you want me to fly that one now, Chair.
Let's fly the correct.
There's no substantial
we don't have information
changes to the program.
Let's look at the latest draft program.
It's now on the screen. Can you see, Chair?
Okay. Okay, let's go until we get to the.
Chairperson, yes. Quick. So this week remains the same. Next week remains the same.
Right.
So the only changes are on the 28th of February when National Treasury will brief Committee on Division of Revenue. We added the additional the 2023-24 second adjustments appropriation bill. Chair, on the 5th, same story. FFC briefing on Division of Revenue bill. We added the additional bill. And the same goes for the PBO for the meeting to be held on 6 March. Chairperson, so the public hearings will now be will be held on the 13th of March, and that will also include the 2023-24 second adjustments appropriation bill. And then on Tuesday the 19th, Chairperson, we are also adopting the report on the second adjustments appropriation bill. So there are no major changes to the program. We just added the second adjustments appropriation bill.
Okay.
To where, yeah.
Thank you. Honorable members, can you adopt this as our program for this term?
Chairperson?
Yes,
Humphrey Memezi.
Yes, Honorable Memezi.
I propose that we adopt with the amendments.
Thank you. Seconder.
Kaiso, Chairperson, seconds.
Thank you. So we've got this draft report in front of us based on what we know. Then we'll proceed on the basis of this. Thank you. Then I think Mashile, we then can go to the minutes of the 29th of November, 2023. Can I have a mover for the adoption of these minutes?
Mlenzana, move.
Mlenzana, thank you very much. You move for the adoption. Seconder.
Humphrey Memezi, seconds.
Memezi, seconds. Thank you. So the minutes of the that was the minutes of the 5th of December, am I right? No, of the 29th of November.
The 29th, yes. So
Minutes of
going to the first.
Yeah, minutes of the 29th of November are duly adopted. Mover for the minutes of the 5th of December, 2023.
No, before that one, the 1st of December.
Oh, yes. The minutes of 1st of December, 2023, a mover. Remembers?
Mlenzana, move.
Remember, moves for the adoption. Seconder.
Humphrey Memezi, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Memezi. So the minutes of the 1st of December, 2023, duly adopted. Can you go to the next set of minutes, 5 December, 2023? Mover.
Kaiso moves, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Kaiso. Seconder.
Mlenzana.
Honorable Mlenzana, second. The minutes of the 5th of December, 2023 are duly adopted. Announcements? Anything from you, Mashile?
Yeah, it's only to remind members that on the 21st, that is next week, we're going to have a budget lockup session.
Wednesday,
and then Thursday, the 22nd, we are going to have a joint meeting with the Finance Committee to receive a briefing from the Minister of Finance on the 2024 budget.
Thank you. Will that be virtual or physical?
The lockup session will be physical.
No. The meeting after the budget.
Yeah, it will be virtual as far as I know. If there's any change, then members will be notified, but it's virtual.
Is that your understanding, Darren? Usually
yes, Chairperson. Yes, Chairperson. That's my understanding as well.
Can you just double check that one?
Will do, Chairperson.
It's just usually it's physical, but just check it because it has got implications on our booking of the flights. Okay. Thank you. Again, let me take this opportunity to thank you, all of you, all members, our support staff, members of the media, everybody who's on the platform, for having attended this meeting. The meeting is adjourned. A deal.
Siyabonga Sihlalo. We didn't believe you.
Ngathi nizafuna ukuqhubeka ngiyanibona.
No, siyabonga Sihlalo.
Thanks, Chair.
Cheers, sir.
Recording stopped.